This is the CBC Evening News.
And a very good evening to you. I'm Sophia Cambridge with this Sunday, September 17th edition of the CBC Evening News. In our top story tonight, our country, Barbados, remains under a tropical storm watch as Maria is upgraded to a hurricane. Resident meteorologist Wayne McGarry joins us now with more on that weather system. Wayne, what can you tell us?
Good evening to you, Sophia, and blessed good evening to all our viewers. Now at 5 p.m. the center of hurricane Maria, which was upgraded to hurricane at 5 p.m. was located 13.8 degrees north, about 57.5 degrees west, and this is a 140 miles to the east-northeast of Barbados. Now the maximum sustained winds are now 75 miles per hour, and the system is still moving west-northwestward at 15 miles per hour. Now, this system is expected to pass about between 80 and 100 miles to the north of Barbados between the early morning into tomorrow. And although we'll be out of the range of the tropical storm force winds, we're still expecting sustained winds of 29 to 45 miles per hour with 45 to 35 miles per hour, with higher gusts of up to storm force winds. Now, we are also still expecting those pockets of moderate to heavy showers. We can see a band actually not too long went across the island associated with this system. Pockets of moderate to heavy showers, of course, periods of rain and thunderstorm activity. Now, we will continue to give you updates on this system. I'll give you a bit more a little later in the news. We can actually also see the center of the system coming up in our radar imagery. Coming up in the last frame, we can see the center here appearing in our imagery. Now we'll take a break and be back with more a little later in the segment.
Thank you so much, Wayne. Definitely want to keep our eye on. And it seems that many Barbadians have been doing just that, making last-minute preparations for Hurricane Maria. A big part of getting ready to ride out the hurricane has been ensuring that there is enough food to last for several days. Well, when a CBC team visited the Massey Store supermarkets at Sky Mall this afternoon, quite a few shoppers were stocking up on the essentials.
I just came from church and said, you know what, let me just step in and get some more things to put into the home so that he and I could be all well prepared.
Amen. Tell me some of the things that you're going today to top up what you're
Well, I top up with a little can of tuna and a little thin stuff, you know, that we can really get something there all the time. A little soup, you know, something quick and easy that we can put on in a little tin soup. It's good.
We're preparing for the storm by stocking our water, non-perishable foods, etc. Pasta. We have solar panels at home, so we have electricity, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
But some people said they were just doing their regular shopping, having already prepared for the hurricane season.
We secure our homes already. We have groceries, so I think that we're okay.
I always have lots of tin stuff and rice food, so this is just a little top up, but not necessarily because of the hurricane or the storms.
I'm mostly prepared with food stuff, and of course I prepare especially batteries and make sure that I have proper lighting and all, just in case that there's a blackout conditions.
Well, in other news, almost 4 years after the chikungunya virus swept through the Caribbean region, a medical practitioner is warning that people may still be experiencing the after effects. Dr. Michael Charles made reference to patients having severe joint pain long after contracting the mosquito-borne illness. Sharika Griffith has more in this report.
For a long time, when someone mentioned the Aedes aegypti mosquito, the discussion usually focused on the spread of dengue fever. But then in 2013, that breed of mosquito was linked to a less familiar but nonetheless debilitating disease, chikungunya. The symptoms of that disease include fever, bad feels, and a skin rash. But perhaps the most outstanding feature is the severe joint pains, which, according to medical practitioner Dr. Michael Charles, may persist long after one contracts the disease.
You can get a persistent disease where people have signs and symptoms that go on for months, and some people say even years. The joints that are involved tend to be the same joints that were involved with the primary disease, and it may be intermittent or continuous. Some of these patients can develop a secondary chronic inflammatory arthritis.
Dr. Charles made the comments at the second Emergency Medicine Conference and Workshop being held at the University of the West Indies. Emergency medicine is the name given to the medical specialty dedicated to the diagnosis and treatment of unforeseen illness or injury. During the two-day event, under the theme From the Office to the Emergency Department, doctors and nurses will view several presentations on topics ranging from asthma to abdominal pain to the interpretation of ECGs and X-rays. During his presentation on day one, Dr. Clark also impressed on participants the importance of providing concise information when sending samples to the lab for testing, given that several diseases such as dengue fever and chikungunya have similar symptoms.
You will see they ask for the features and they ask for a time frame. So usually when you do that and you send the sample, the lab will then know. They will actually test for multiple things. They usually look for the most common ones first, and if that is negative, then they will go on to looking for other ones. So that is why it is so important to, when you're doing the sending the sample, that you let them know the symptoms that are occurring and the time frame that since the symptoms have come on.
The conference is being hosted by the Caribbean Emergency Medicine Association. The last Emergency Medicine Conference was also held in Barbados in 2013. Sharika Griffith, CBC News.
And in more health news, we're hearing that people are being diagnosed with dementia at an earlier age. Dementia is characterized by memory loss and confusion and is mainly found among people aged 65 years or older. President of the Barbados Alzheimer's Association, Pamelia Brereton, says a worrying trend is emerging among Barbadians.
When one thinks of Alzheimer's, they think of persons who are elderly. But it's not so anymore. Recently, there are a number of persons much younger who have been coming down with dementia. But I've had persons in their 50s, professional persons, who have walked into my office, age 50 and on, who are suffering with dementia.
Speaking at the Barbados Alzheimer's Association service at the St. Ambrose Anglican Church, Ms. Brereton says while the official figures for Barbados for 2017 are not currently available, dementia has become an epidemic worldwide.
To assist, it is important that we...
2014, we had approximately an estimate of approximately 4,087. Now, this is 2017. I have about 3 to 5 people call me every day at the office. So you can start doing your calculations. For an island of ours of 275,000 people, I say 300,000. I believe those numbers have increased immensely.
We'll return with more news just after the break.
For a person who is depressed, other than seeking professional help and taking their medication, talking helps.
There are people who feel that I should be better and that I shouldn't complain. I shouldn't have fallout. I shouldn't have outbursts, because I do have outbursts. There are times that I have moves. I could be very good this week, and then next week I could just want to go into a shed and not talk.
Do you want audience numbers? Over 140,000 people are watching Morning Barbados and the evening news. 6 out of 10 top radio personalities are found right here at the CBC. CBC delivers the audience you need.
The renewable energy sector needs greater investment from locals. That's the view of President of the Barbados Renewable Energy Association, Aidan Rogers, who was a guest on CBC's Walter Point 2 radio program. Just 3 to 4% of Barbados's electricity is being generated by renewable energy, but he's hoping to see that figure increase. Mr. Rogers says investment from local businesses will ensure the profits remain in the local economy.
One of the important benefits and features of trying to do that is how best we can foster local investment to actually supply that. So if you bear in mind that we're importing 800 million now, if we can at least through investments in the range of renewable technologies, and this would be solar, this would be eventually wind, electric vehicles at some stage where you would use the renewable energy to actually power those vehicles, Barbadian investment could actually be the beneficiaries of that now annual $800 million figure. Because if we make the investment, those returns will be coming to us as opposed to the Exxons, the Mobils, whoever who supplies the fuel to us.
Well, it was a reunion of sorts when Acting Governor-General Sir Philip Graves visited the country's newest centenarian, Gwendolyn Trotman. Ms. Trotman spent most of her life at Cave Hill in St. Michael in the constituency of St. Michael North, where Sir Philip served as a Member of Parliament for almost 30 years. We get more in this report.
The joy was evident on Gwendolyn Trotman's face when Governor-General Sir Philip Graves stopped by to extend birthday wishes. She engaged the Governor-General in plenty conversation and gratefully accepted the flowers and gifts he brought for her. Her stepdaughter, Suzette Neblett-Strawn, says it's a moment Miss Trotman has been looking forward to for some time.
She would always say as she was approaching, this milestone, she's awaiting the Governor-General. And I would say to her, well, I'm awaiting Christ. But, that was something she was looking forward to. And as she said, when she realized then it was Sir Philip, she was even more excited because she would have been from his catchment in terms of his political career, the area of Cave Hill, St. Michael. So she was really pleased to know that it was him.
Miss Trotman was the first of 2 children, but her brother died in childhood. She finished school at 12 and started her work life at R.S. Nichols, a haberdashery which was located in the city. She then moved on to become a receptionist in the welfare department of the Childcare Board for many years, before retiring from the Costa Mannings at the age of 65. She also did a considerable amount of traveling once she married.
She's Barbadian, he's Trinidadian. They met in Trinidad and she got married there. And then she resided in Trinidad for a while. So from there, he moved to the various Caribbean islands because back in those days, sugar was king. And he was into the plantation era and that type of thing. So he moved from St. Kitts to Nevis to Anguilla, back to Trinidad and so on. And basically, that's how she got into hairdressing and as a hobby because she didn't really have to work as such.
Suzette says Miss Trotman was always a people's person. And while she had no children of her own, helped raise 3 children, including Suzette. Growing up, Suzette says a stern glance from Miss Trotman was all the discipline she needed. These days, the centenarian still has a hearty appetite and will eat anything except a pork chop. She's also still able to do a lot on her own.
On a daily basis, she would get up around 5:36 as though she's going to work. Usually when I pass her bedroom, she's up and she's sitting out in the chair looking. She would get a bath and so on after we're gone so that she's not really in our way as such, so she says. And then she would make her breakfast. I leave her lunch and she just has to warm that. And then she would make her supper. So she would listen to the TV, watch the TV, listen to the radio. She reads her Bible. She still can sew. So if something is too big, especially the arms won't take it in, she does that herself. I had her in daycare so she can get the socializing and so on, but she was about the most active in the daycare and she was getting bored.
The centenarian has had cataract surgery on both eyes, a pacemaker installed some years ago, and uses a hearing aid. However, she has no issues with her blood pressure or blood sugar. The birthday celebrations will continue with a luncheon and several pre-recorded videos from relatives in Canada. There are also plans for Miss Trotman to visit Christ the King Church in Rockdundo, where she sang in the choir up until a few years ago. Sharika Griffith, CBC News.
Our best wishes to you, Ms. Trotman. In Guyana, President David Granger has taken issue with the level of service provided by some of the country's schools. He says they should cater to children with special needs, adding that until they do, they're not considered as satisfactory educational institutions. Christian McClingham has the details.
Attendance of students in schools throughout Guyana needs to be improved, and according to President Granger, there is need for more schools, but having the physical structure built is far from enough.
We have to improve attendance. We do not want a single Guyanese child to drop out, even if that child is visually impaired or physically impaired. We have to ensure that that child can get to a school which can give him or her the education he needs and deserves.
President Granger addressing the gathering during the National Education Day Rally 2017. The head of state explained that through a new education program, the Department for Education System, Innovation and Reform, school attendance will be focused on intently next year. The location of schools and their accessibility to children will also be on the front burner, the president said.
If children don't learn the way they're taught, teach them the way they can learn. And let us find out where our children are. We don't want children staying home because of some physical or visual impediment. So more schools are necessary, but they are not sufficient unless and until those schools provide for the special needs of our Guyanese children.
The United Nations has called for an investigation into the killing of 36 Burundian refugees by soldiers in the Democratic Republic of Congo.
They came here to the Democratic Republic of Congo for safety. The UN says refugees died following a protest. Demonstrators clashed with soldiers and dozens were killed and injured.
We were informed that the leaders around here, they would not let the refugees stay here and even get into the camp, as the only option was to go back to Burundi, where we are afraid we could be killed.
The UN says the demonstration was against the expulsion of 2 Burundian refugees. They live among host communities in the eastern town of Kamanyola.
As an administrator, I cannot accept that the Burundians, our brothers and sisters, die here in Congo. As you know, the story is very clear. We've treated these people well and cooperated with them. Even today, we continue to cooperate with them.
Burundi's political crisis began in April 2015 when President Pierre Nkurunziza launched his bid for a 3rd term in office. Opposition and rights groups say it was illegal and unconstitutional. What started with street protests in the capital later became violent conflict across the country. The government's accused of extrajudicial killings and torture to silence critics, things it denies. But 400,000 people left the country because of the violence.
Well, the sports news is up next with Sean Green.